And so today, we're going to talk about how to choose the good stuff. Everyone say the good stuff. And we're going to be looking at a story today that's going to be very important for us to see how Jesus addresses this. But we've got a problem in America to where we live jam-packed, and we don't even know how to what the important things are and what really matters most, though we might say that. So today, I'm going to be so transparent, it might get uncomfortable in here today, that I'm going to be personal with you, and then I'm also going to be personal with myself. And so today I'm going to get pretty honest. I'm going to get bare naked honest. Everyone say bare naked. Probably didn't expect to say that here today at church, but we're going to get, I'm serious. There's some times that you're going to be like, why are you talking to me like this? And, leave me alone. And that's okay, because I believe this. Today we're going to start getting healthy. And we're going to start growing, and we're going to start seeing God just really move in our life and make things better on all fronts. Over the past few years, I've recognized this, or probably the last 10 years or so, that when someone who is older passes away, far advanced in years, maybe in their 90s or so, that maybe there'll be a couple people together having a conversation and say, yeah, it's sad they passed away. They were in their 90s, though. They lived a full life. They lived a full life. And when I've heard that statement, I began to wonder, well, what is a full life? Who defines a full life? Does that mean that's a quality life? Because sometimes, we can just say a full life. Does that mean like, okay, we did a lot of stuff, or we accomplished a lot of things, we bought a lot of things, or we got rich, or we had the house? What does a full life mean? And so when we go into the series jam-packed, I wonder if that's what it means when we say we're living a full life. But how do we know if we're living a quality life? How do we know if we're living and we're seeing what matters most happening in our life? What are the ingredients of that? I want you to really process these things today and on through the next few weeks. That a lot of times we know the right answers. That we say the right things. And if I was to ask your priorities and what makes a quality life and what matters, you could spit out a lot of things probably. But if we looked at our schedules, if we looked at the pace at what we live, if we looked at our ambitions and where our money goes and all of these different areas, would we say really that we live according to what matters most? That we have a quality life? I want you to have a quality life. I want to have a quality life, but it's not going to happen if we live a jam-packed life. If you think about all the things that we can accumulate over the years, all the things we accomplish, classes, jobs, and promotions, and if we were to make these things like items, like literal physical things that we had in our house, I think most of us, we would be hoarders. We'd be hoarders, man. We'd have stuff everywhere. We'd have stacks of stuff. And the reason is because we would have this mindset that a lot of things matter, but if everything matters most, nothing matters. Yeah. It's just stuff. And so we have these schedules and the things we have to do and the responsibilities, and we're running around, and we're misled into thinking this, that quantity equals quality. I'm touching on this morning. It's going to be kind of intense, all right? That we think quantity of schedule and things that we're doing makes a quality life. I want you to have a quality life, but it's not about getting a lot done. It's not about accomplishing a lot of things, because we have an American problem. And what happens is in this American problem is, since we think that a full life is a lot of stuff, our problem is that we are busy. And we think a busy life is a quality life, and that's what matters most. And I'm going to tell you that you are busy. I am busy, and many of us are too busy, and I want to tell you why. Because when you run into somebody at Starbucks or at home, or someone you haven't seen in a while, and they say, hey, how are you doing? What do you say? Man, I'm busy, right? Or, man, I'm so tired. I'm running here, running out. Man, I'm just busy. And that's what comes out of our mouth. And if we really looked at that, and we say that a lot, how many of you can admit that you say, I'm busy a lot? All right, we have about half of you being honest in church. That's good. But I have to be really honest with you. For a number of years, and kind of my personality, the truth is that I'm an adrenaline junkie. That I love getting a lot of stuff done. How many of you are like me, you know, I have to-do lists. I have to-do lists for the to-do lists. And I have goals and I have things I'm going to do. And man, I get so high, not like weed high, but I get so high on, man, I did this, I did this, I did this. And if it's crunch time, I'm your dude. I will make it happen. And the problem is I can get so involved in this that I push maybe some things that matter more out of the way. And not only that, I tell you what, I love ministry. I love inspiring people. I love motivating people. I love helping people get through problems and issues in their life and being able to move forward. The thing is with ministry, it can take as much of my life as I give it. And I'll tell you why. Because y'all are crazy. You're crazy. Come on, some of you. Can I get a witness? All right. Anyway, no, but I love doing it. And here's why you're busy. You like doing a lot of stuff. You like and you love a lot of stuff just like me. And the problem is that we can have a lot of things that may matter or don't matter, but do they matter most? And what we have to look at is our priorities. What do we prioritize? When we're looking at what matters most, it's going to develop we're going to look at the priorities and not the intended priorities, but the actual priorities we see. And so we have to look at, based on the priorities and based on what I think matters, what I have to do is match it up and say, but does this really matter to God? And even if you're not a Christian today and you don't even care if things matter to God, I think that you're going to see how you may be busy and living a jam-packed life. And how, man, you just want to make sure that you're leaning your ladder against the right wall when you get older in life, that you would say, I didn't live jam-packed, but the things that mattered most were the things that I leaned on and gave my heart and soul to. And so we're going to look at a story today in your Bible in the book of Luke, and that's chapter 9. And we're going to see a story here where Jesus is confronting somebody who has a jam-packed schedule. Man, you guys are quiet today. I knew this was going to hit. Hey, this is going to get real this morning. I'm just telling you, because God got real with me, and he told me how I'm doing fine, but you guys are messed up. Anyway, and so, no, he got real with me. And so, but we're going to see this, how Jesus addresses somebody that, man, they're just jam-packed. And they got a lot of things that matter, but Jesus is pointing out that really doesn't matter most. And we see how this lady named Martha got off track. And so if you have your Bibles today, would you turn to Luke chapter 10. And it says this about Martha and Mary. It says, now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village. He's talking about Jesus and his little posse, his disciples. And it says, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted by much serving. And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. You're talking to Jesus like that. Okay. But the Lord answered her, Martha, 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 you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. Jesus is addressing and communicating to Martha and to us, because I think Martha had an American problem too, is that you are so focused on things and have priorities, and you have a lot of things that you think that matter, and you're living jam-packed. But you need to really look at this, Martha. You need to look at this, church. I need to look at this as, are those things the ones that matter most, and are we jam-packed, and it's not even in line with what God wants? In the next few weeks, we're going to try to figure this thing out and say, I don't want to live a jam-packed life. I want to live free. I want to enjoy life. But it really begins, we have to look at our priorities. Now, Mahatma Gandhi said this, that actions express priorities. Actions, not intentions. Because if I asked you, hey, what are your priorities? You would spell it out. Well, this, and this. And that's good. It's probably your intended priorities, though. And if we were to look at your actions, what would your actions say? No, these are really the priorities in your life. And so today, I want us to really look at what matters most in our priorities and the things that maybe are some collateral damage that we cause because we are not putting the things that matter most first. And so today I want you to see this, that you know what matters most by what you give most of your energy to. I'm going to let that connect for a minute. You know what matters most by what you give most of your energy to. Pastor Dave, what are you talking about my energy? Let me show you what this looks like. Is if there's something that just matters so much that you think about it constantly. Or those one or two things. You know if you're giving a lot of energy to something, if it dominates kind of everything else and dictates what happens in everything else in your life. I'm talking to somebody. Anyway, you know this. You're emotionally tied to it. You have to schedule around this stuff or these things, and you're giving all of your energy to this. And the question is that we have to look at and evaluate, does all of this, getting all of this done or everything done, does this really matter most? Because if everything is important, then nothing's important. And so we have to look at what really matters most. Can I get an amen? All right, wake up, stay with me this morning. And so we're going to look at Martha here, and we're going to see what happens when we have a jam-packed life, when we are giving so much of our energy to something and how it can really impact our living in every area. And the first thing is this, is that when we live a jam-packed life, we're stretched out. Everyone say stretched out. The thing is, stretched out leads to stressed out. And it says this about Martha. It says that she was distracted by much. Now, the word that comes from gives the image picture of being dragged around. She was being dragged around by a lot of stuff. She was here and there, and it also tells us, shows us something of someone who is overoccupied. They've got a lot going on. And here's the thing with us, is that we think a lot of stuff means that we're having a quality life. We think going somewhere and knocking things out or having these ambitions and getting there and these goals and making them happen, we just think that makes our life like important. And so we're stretched out, and you know what we do? We end up creating projects that take over a lot of areas in our life. We become workaholics. We take on some classes or some courses. We're having these aspirations. We got to make sure that we have our hobbies, and our hobbies take up a lot of time. We have friends. We need to make sure that we're with all of our friends, and we're making sure we make these deadlines because a lot of things matter. And we're giving our energy to so many places, or maybe specific places that drive us. And you know also where it gets haywire is when it comes to our kids. So many people in America think, if I don't take my kids to every activity they want, every performance they want, if they're not in every sport that they want, then I'm a bad parent. It's just a fact of America today. And I want you to know something. If you can't say no to your kids and you feel like you need to do all these things to be a good parent, I want you to know you're raising a little someone who's going to have a jam-packed life just like you. Because boundaries are important for us to be able to live a life that's not jam-packed. Yeah. We're trying to win the American sport. And you know what that is? It's the busy Olympics. It's the busy Olympics. And the thing is, even if you win, you lose at everything. When we're trying to be busy and we're giving our energy to so many different things and we're stretched out. And then you know where it takes us? And another place that we see here with Martha is that we can become discontent with God. I'm talking to you this morning. We can become discontent with God. I think sometimes I just think things in the Bible are humorous. Is that here is Martha. She's upset, frustrated. She's got a lot going on, jam-packed. I got my schedule. I got my deadline. I'm the welcoming committee. I'm washing the dishes. I'm making the food, trying to make sure Jesus is all good. And she says this, "Don't you even care? Tell her what to do." She's talking like the Messiah, like God, right? Like, don't you care? Tell her what to do. And what's funny to me is this. Jesus, when she says this, Jesus never says, "Oh, Martha, I do care." Jesus doesn't say, "Hey, look, let me talk to you about things, but I want you to know I care." Jesus didn't care. And you want to know why? Because a lot of things that we think we make up that are urgent or important, God doesn't care about those because they're not urgent and important to Him. Because ultimately He looks at your life, and I care about your life, and that's not what matters most. God knows what matters most for your life to prosper, for your life to be quality, for your life to be enjoyable and not this jam-packed life. Because what we do is, check this out, we make a busy, jam-packed life, and we pray and we tell God, "Now make it livable. Make my jam-packed life and all the things that I think are urgent and important, would you make it livable?" And so we think God doesn't answer prayer, or we think God isn't listening very well. Right? And so we have to really evaluate, if I'm feeling that way with God, what are the areas that maybe I've made up? That God's like, I don't care about that, because what I care about, I know what's the most important things and the things that really matter. And so what are you giving most of your energy to? That will show you what matters most. And then it goes to a whole nother level right here, from being stretched out to discontent with God, to where we overlook close relationships. This is where it's going to get difficult, and there's going to be some tension in the room or in your heart, in your spirit right now. Is that here is Martha. She's getting upset with Jesus. He's not taking care of business. Neither is her sister. Her sister is in the room, and she's talking to Jesus, not even giving her any attention. It's like she's saying this, "Jesus, why aren't you doing anything? This girlfriend right here isn't doing jack." And she's not even like paying attention to her. And what's happening is she's getting so preoccupied with what she's doing, my jam-packed life, and all the things that I've made important, and she's not doing anything at all. She's getting critical of her and beginning to push her out of the way. And that's what happens. And I want you to know this. Relationships are the only thing that you and I can take into eternity. And if we don't understand that, and we live these jam-packed lives, and we go after things that we think matter, but they really don't, we don't give quality time to relationships. We'll be there, but we're not there. Or we give leftovers. Or we just kind of fit you in somewhere to make them feel like they're okay. Or I'll buy you something, and that'll make them happy. Or we even do this. I'm just being real this morning. And we got little ones, and we say, "Well, let me just go ahead and get YouTube on the phone. I'll give it to them, and they'll entertain themselves." Or let me babysit them. The TV's a good babysitter. And we're not giving them quality time. You want to know why? Because I got stuff to do. I got some things that matter. And so we overlook these close relationships. And you want to know how you know if you're going to pay attention and have healthy relationships? It's going to look at the relationships that are around you that are the closest to you, that are the closest to me. Because I can come and I can look like a superhero to all of you. But if I don't look like a superhero and I'm not that dad, I'm not that husband that I need to be, I have not won. That is not what matters most. And the thing is, when we're talking about this, I want you to see this, because this is where we can feel some tension. And I've felt this at times. We can be watching a movie. We can be hearing a message like today. And there's tension that's rising up because the person sitting next to me, or the person that's in the room, or what I'm sensing, the tension's rising up because we're like, "Oh, I can't handle this. Oh, this is me." So we get busy and we get jam-packed because hopefully I'll drown it out and I'll avoid it and it'll go away. And I want you to know, those close relationships, those so matter. Those so need our energy, and to be very gut level honest. Now, I'm going to be so gut level honest with you today. And I'm going to be so serious with what I'm going to share with you, because I think if I want you to be transparent, I need to be transparent. And about 5 months ago, there were just some things I was sensing in my spirit, some things I wasn't comfortable with about myself. And because I wasn't really comfortable with myself in some areas, and it wasn't anything immoral at all, it was just kind of just me, my makeup, and where I was. I just realized I gotta confront some stuff. I can't pretend anymore. I can't just push this aside. And so I made a decision that I was going to ask Lori a very dangerous question. And it was dangerous because I was pretty sure she was going to be in agreement or even answer the way I didn't want to hear. And so over weeks, I kind of processed. And then one day we were in our car driving, and I just looked at her and I said, let me ask you a question. I said, are you happy with our marriage? And she said no. And I wasn't happy either. Now, because she's not happy and I'm not happy, we don't handle things the way society doesn't say, well, maybe we should move on. We've been missing what matters most. And so for me, because I knew God was working on me, I'm like, this matters to me. And I've got to make changes. I've been overlooking this or pretending or hoping. But unless I do something, unless I don't make it a priority and give my energy to it, then it really doesn't matter most. I'm just saying that. And so over the last 5 months or so, man, I have made changes. I have done some things because she matters to me. My wife is number one in my life outside of God. And I want you to know our marriage is happier. It's better than it's been in years. But I couldn't keep going along. And I'm not telling you I'm Superman. I'm telling you that my wife just told me she wasn't really happy about it. Well, I don't want it to stay there. And many of us here today, we're kind of avoiding things and we don't want to ask these questions because we're afraid of the answer. It's okay if you find the answer. Now you know where things need to matter most. Are you with me this morning? And so we can't overlook those close relationships. Then it goes on a little further and it gets serious too, and what Jesus does and how he handles Martha. And this is where these things can happen when we're jam-packed and we have a lot going on and we're busy. We got the busy Olympics happening. Is that we're unaware of the inward strife inside of us. She's complaining. She's frustrated. She doesn't even care about her sister. It's all about what she has going on and what she thinks matters. And Jesus doesn't even address it. You know what he says? He says, Martha, Martha, you got a lot of anxiety and you're troubled about a lot of things. He's shooting to the source. Martha, there's something in here. And what was happening is Martha is after trying to search for something that will give her self-worth, that'll make her feel important. See, many times what we'll do is we'll have a lot of stuff, we'll get jam-packed because then we feel like that's a successful life. Now I'm going to feel important. Now I'm going to feel valued. People, when they look at me, they're going to say, man, they're really doing it. When really, there's probably a lot of inward strife, so we have to identify what it is. And these are the types of areas where it comes from. Am I hitting some people? You guys are with me this morning? Is that someone doubted us in the past, so we live our life trying to prove them wrong. Someone placed expectations on us, and we're going to show them we can meet them and go even above that. Or we want everybody to like us. We want to be Superman, the superhero. We want to be the fix-it person. We want people to look at us and say, wow. Or we were raised and we didn't have everything we wanted, and we're going to make sure I have everything I want, and so are my kids. And so that's what drives us. That's why we're jam-packed. That's what really is mattering most. And Jesus is getting to the issue with her and saying, no, Martha, I want you to see this here. I want to change this. The Apostle Paul addressed this in the book of 2 Corinthians, I believe, and he says this, or 1 Corinthians, it says, my desire is to have you free. Everyone say free. My desire is to have you free from all anxiety and distressing care. I just want you to be free from this. So the question for you today is, and when you're looking at how you have a jam-packed life and you got a lot of things that matter and you're kind of shooting for things, you're pulling things in and things are coming to the surface here and in your head and you're thinking about them, is what does that inward strife look like in your life? What's that strife that's there? Because God doesn't want you to live bound up by strife. He wants you to live free. And He wants you to live with quality. And He wants you to be on target with what matters most. And so here he attacks that. And then there's two words that Jesus says that just cuts through. He says one thing, or three words. One thing is necessary. Because what we do is we take on unnecessary endeavors. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Oh man, I like that. I'm going to do that. I want that car. I'm going to make enough money so I can have that. I'm going to get that raise, and I'm going to pursue all these things. And no one is saying they're bad. But are they what's best and worth giving all of your energy to? And pushing relationships aside and having this strife and working so hard that we take on unnecessary endeavors. And so we pack our schedule. We cut some things out so we can fill some more things in. And it's like shoving everything into a small box. And so there's some things that we just have to recognize. I can't do this in this season right now. And that's okay. Maybe down the road. Or I have some aspirations. And I love that. And God's put that in my heart. And maybe when... But man, is it necessary right now? And because we like stuff, because we love stuff, we make it a non-negotiable in our mind. I have to. I've got to. Instead of sitting back and pushing back and say, but is that really necessary for me in my life right now? Is that what matters most when I compare it to everything else? And maybe what Jesus would say, that doesn't matter most to me. When I was younger, in my early 20s, about 20, 21, I was a gym rat. I spent several hours and lots of money on just different things that would help me grow. And several times during the week, I was a gym rat. Now I'm just a rat. I don't know. I don't know what I would say and where I'm at today, but back then I was. You know that saying that says the older I get, the better I was. It's just kind of rings true for me. But I had these goals and the ambitions that I wanted to hit with weights, right? And I would do what you would call maxing out. And I'd stack on all the plates and get them on there. I'd have a spotter over me, and I would get down, especially on bench press. And I had goals that I want to hit. And so you take that thing off the rack and boom, and you bring it and you want to shove it up and you want to get it. And I'd sit there and be trembling, and I'd have the spotter over me that wanted to kind of help. And as I'm pushing up, I'm like, don't you touch that at all. I'm going to get this thing. And I'm straining, I'm going to get it there, and I'm pushing, I'm maxing out, and some of us are living maxed out lives, and we're jam-packed, and I'm going to get it there, and I'm going to make it happen, and you're not free, and you're seeing your relationships, you're overlooking them, and now you're seeing how you're taking on unnecessary things, and you're stretched out, and you're discontent with God because you're maxing out on the wrong things, the things that do not matter most. Man, it's time to get free from that and not live jam-packed anymore and try to be busy. And Jesus turns from Martha and he turns to Mary, because Mary, she made room for what mattered most. Mary made room for what mattered most. She had Jesus in the room. Jesus has never been in my room physically, but she had Jesus in the room. Jesus was in the house. And Jesus now addresses and looks at this simple thing. He says, look, she has chosen the good part. Martha, I want you to see this. She's chosen the good portion. Beyond that even, it says that she was sitting and she was listening and she was with Jesus. And he says, and that can never be taken away from her. Because Mary chose the good stuff with no regrets. What she chose, that word good actually means that the root word there means benefit. He's saying, look, what she's choosing, she's going to get the most benefit out of. And Martha, you are not going to get that. What you're doing, it's cool. I get it. You want to serve. You want to bless me. You want to do great things. But Martha, that isn't what matters most. Because Jesus is in the room. And Martha understood, he is my salvation. He is my hope. He is my help. He is my strength. He is my forgiveness. In a few days, He's going to die on the cross. And He's going to be risen from the dead. And I'm going to be united with God forever in eternity. And He is the thing that matters most. And He's telling Martha, 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 Martha. Martha, I want you to see this. I want you to have your eyes focused on this today. I think He's inviting her in and just saying, you got a lot of things that matter, but they don't matter most. And Martha, you're going to have to, if you want to live that life and not be jam-packed, then you're going to have to cut some stuff down. Listen to me. You're going to have to cut some stuff down. As a matter of fact, Martha, there's some stuff that you may need to just cut out. And thinking about yourself right now, I just want you, can you close your eyes for a minute? As we come to a close, I know there's been some tension in here right now. But we're going to set ourselves free today, and we're going to alter some things in our life. Just keep your eyes closed for a minute. I want us to see this today. What would be the things that you know they're coming to the surface, they're in your mind right now, that you would say, God may be telling you need to cut down on this? Because you can see how it makes you get discontent with God sometimes. You're overlooking some close relationships, and man, you're stretched out, and it's just, things aren't healthy, they're not right, you're jam-packed. You're giving a whole lot of energy to stuff. What might be that thing that God's saying, I want you to cut this down? Jesus is in the room, just like He was with Martha and Mary. Or maybe even deeper, what may Jesus be saying as far as, I want you to just cut this out. Just cut it out. What is He telling you right now? Think about that for a minute. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to listen to the Holy Spirit. Because let's not just go ahead and hear a pretty cute message and leave, and we're not seeing the difference. Now I want you to ask the Lord, Lord, how do you want me to begin to do this? Because I want you to choose the good stuff and not have any regrets that'll never take it away. Hey, you know what? Thinking about 5 years from now, what could you cut down and cut out that you would say, that didn't even matter because I knew what I was losing and how things were going. And 5 years from now, I say, I'm so glad that I got unpacked from being jam-packed. What is that today? It starts with coming to Jesus and say, Jesus, would you show me? Because what matters most to you, I want it to matter most to me.